Yeah, it's Miss Blasky. We're going to talk about the last topic of the last unit for the semester. This is going to be about electrolysis. So way back at the beginning of Unit 9, we talked about how there were two different types of electrochemical cells. Up to this point, we've only been talking about the galvanic cells. They're also called voltaic cells. They're the ones that are thermodynamically favorable. They start to transfer those electrons as soon as you hook everything up. They need salt bridges, all that sort of stuff. Electrolysis cells or electrolytic cells are the little bit different ones. These reactions are not thermodynamically favorable, so they need some sort of external power source to make them go. We are going to do some in class that require just a battery, but industrially, these can require a lot of power to make them function. They do not need salt bridges or porous discs or any of that sort of stuff. They can be used to do lots of things. They can be used to separate water into hydrogen and oxygen. They can be used to separate out metal from ore that has been mined out of the ground. They can also be used to plate things with a very thin layer of metal. So this happens often with the shiny parts on the outside of cars. If things are chrome, it's usually a stronger, cheaper metal underneath, and then they put a thin layer of chromium over the top to make it look shiny and fancy. We can also use that protective layer or that thin layer on the outside to protect a less durable or less strong metal underneath. And so sometimes that's called electroplating. So we're going to talk about all the different ways we can do this. Electrolysis can be formed in an aqueous solution, just like we did with our galvanic cells. It also can be performed in molten solutions. Yes, you can melt salt. It's got to be really freaking hot, but you can do it. So basics of everything else still follow the same way. We still have a cation, we still have an anion. The oxidation still happens at the anion. Reduction still happens at the cation. Electrons still flow from one electrode to the other. Lots of times when we're doing this, we really only usually care about one of the electrodes, especially when we're doing the metal plating. So one electron is just sort of there to help conduct the electricity, and the other electrode is the thing that you are plating that metal onto. So again, Faraday's number is going to come back up. We can connect this to some stoichiometry as to how much of this material we can get out with putting in how much power and how long it runs. So we have this thing called Faraday's law. So I equals Q over T. I is our current. We talked about this a little bit in class. Current is measured in amps or amperes. Q is the total amount of charge we have going on. So this is going to be based on the number of electrons that we've got going. And then T is going to be the time that has gone by. That time comes out in seconds when we do this equation. So we got to do a little bit of stoichiometry to make this make sense first, and then we can use this equation. So example number 21 says how long, this should be how long must a current of 5 amps be applied to a solution of silver +1 ions to produce 10.5 grams of silver metal. So if we're going to use our I equals Q over T equation, I is our current. We do know that value. They said it was 5 amps. We do not know our Q, but we want to find our T. So we need to find some way to figure out how much charge is needed to produce 10.5 grams of that silver metal. So here's where our stoichiometry comes in. If I've got 10.5 grams of silver is how much I want to make. Well, grams, I know I can always turn grams into moles. So 1 mole of silver, take a look at the periodic table, is 107.87 grams per mole. Looking at what ion we're starting with, to get from silver plus to silver metal, I have to gain 1 electron per ion. So that means to make 1 mole of silver, I need to gain 1 mole of electrons. And then we've got that Faraday's constant, which connects how much charge there is per mole of electrons. So 1 mole of electrons is 96,485 coulombs of charge. So for example, if this had been aluminum instead of silver, aluminum plus 3 going to aluminum metal, then that means we would have to transfer 3 moles of electrons to make this work. If it was lead plus 4, we'd have to transfer 4 moles of electrons. So this is sort of where our stoichiometry comes in from our balance equation or from thinking about our half reaction. So if I do this math, this is going to give me my Q value, 10.5 times 96,485 divided by 107.87 gives me 9,391.8 coulombs of charge. Do some algebra, solve for T. I get that my time is going to be 1,880 seconds to make this reaction happen. Right? So there's really only 2 ways that this question can ever show up. It can either say, how long or what amperage do you need to be able to make this happen from this to make this mass of chemical? Or it could be the other way around and say, hey, if you have this situation, if it runs this long with this amperage, how many grams of metal can you make? So this way, when they're asking for a time, we got to do our stoichiometry first and then use the Faraday's law second. If they gave you time and current and then asked you for mass, we do this I equals Q over T first and then do the stoichiometry second. The other thing we have to consider when we are doing electrolysis, which is different from those galvanic cells, is that we are not going to be flipping around our oxidations and our reductions. If I have, for example, in question 24, if I have the electrolysis of sodium chloride, notice that this says sodium chloride aqueous. So in that beaker, I have sodium ions, I have chloride ions, and I've got water. Those are my 3 possibilities for my reactants. As you notice on here, they've written actually 4 different half reactions for what can happen to these reactants. So sodium can gain electron. It can be reduced into sodium metal. Well, this is liquid sodium. Chlorine can be oxidized into Cl2. Now notice that Cl minus cannot be reduced. It's not going to gain any more electrons. Cl minus 2 is not a thing. Sodium is not going to be oxidized. It's not going to lose any more electrons and become sodium plus 2. So I really only have 2 options here for my sodium and my chlorine. I can't flip those equations around and make things happen because I don't have both reactant and product like we did in the galvanic cells. Water, though, water can be oxidized or reduced. It has that option. So when I have that water in my solution, oxidizing or reducing water is always a possibility. So if I look, these are my 2 options for reductions. These are my 2 options for oxidations. I got to figure out which one is more likely to happen. So remember, when we talked about our reduction potential chart, we talked about how the half reactions higher up on that chart, or with the more positive reduction potentials, were more likely to be reduced. So out of these two choices, water is actually more likely to be reduced than sodium is. So that's going to be what happens at the cathode. Reduction happens at the cathode. Remember, An, ox, and red cat. So I'm not actually going to get sodium to be reduced. If I look at my two oxidation possibilities, the two reactions that can happen at the anode, these are already written as oxidations. They're not written as reductions, right? Because I'm losing my electrons. There's the electrons. Because they're already written as oxidations, the more positive value here is going to be what is most likely to happen at the anode. So they are really close, but this one is slightly more positive. So if I just put salt into water and I run electricity through it, I'm not going to form liquid sodium or chlorine gas, which is kind of a good thing because otherwise we would all die anytime lightning hit a lake or the ocean. There are ways to get sodium and chlorine out of this. If I don't want to have water as an option, I either need to pick another oxidation or reduction reaction to force the one I want to happen, or I need to take water out of the picture. If I made sodium chloride liquid instead of aqueous, if I melted it down and made sodium chloride liquid, then there is no water. It's just really hot sodium chloride. If I then ran a current through that, I could reduce my sodium and oxidize my chlorine. So we got to pay a little bit more close attention to what all of our options are when we're doing electrolysis. We got to be a little bit pickier. Maybe we need to pick different half reactions to see how that will work. And we will do several free response questions where we can sort of see about how do we pick this, how do we look at the information to figure out what's going on. But again, we're remembering that idea of the more positive the E is, the more likely that reaction is to occur, right? So that's it. That's everything we need to know about electrolysis and about electrochem. I will see y'all in class later, and we will keep practicing. Take care. Bye.